forward.
Ken
Wasting
Davidson.
time.
There is a major issue going on in Hammond right now, and you know it, I know it, we all know it. And that is that the schools are getting ready to get $15 million less next year. I know that you fought against the referendum. Why?
Well, first I want to, can I clarify one point before we get into that? And I do have my reasons outlined as to why we fought against the referendum. And in a nutshell, it is that I didn't see a viable plan for fiscal and educational attainment with the money that they were asking for. By the way, there were two referenda, so let's clarify that and ensure that people understand that there were two separate referenda, operations and a capital. But one thing that I want...
Hey, Ken, I'm going to run back and get some water. I can hear you. I'm still in on this. It's just you won't see me, but keep going.
Okay. I want to make sure that people understand that the corrective action plan that closed the schools was in play for 2 years. These two of the three schools were closing regardless of whether the referendum are passed or not. There was an $11 million structural deficit even with the referendum. They're saving, allegedly, $5 million, or projected, I shouldn't say allegedly, projected to save a little over $5 million per year by closing the three schools.
I thought it was 6.5, but split the difference either way, give or take.
What I saw at the meeting, they said something like 5.3 at the school board meeting.
I mean, but give or take, $1 million is...
you're still $5 million short.
You're still, I think,
With
you're further than that, but...
you're going to be 25, 26 without.
Okay, go ahead.
25 to 26 without the referendum, you're going to be short. Okay? Over the past several years, what we've seen is declining test scores, we've seen increased costs, and we've seen fewer employees. So we're getting much less for much more expense. In 2020 to 2021, the last year for which numbers are available, the school city of Hammond total receipts, can you give me a guess what their total receipts were?
30 million.
30 million? There's not a school district in the area that operates on a budget like that.
That is 30 too high?
So I have total receipts for Lake Central, Crown Point, and Hammond. So total receipts from all sources. We're talking state, federal, local, everything. Okay? For Lake Central, and this is from the Indiana DLGF, okay? 129,058, 129 million.
129 million? So I was a little shy when I said 30?
Yeah, that's for Lake Central.
Okay.
That's in 2020, 2021, the last year for which numbers are available.
That's also three communities.
And about 10, but we're number of students.
Number of students are about
10,000 students.
Okay, 10,000.
Hammond at this point was at 11,000 students, okay?
Yeah.
That's 2020, 2021. Crown Point, about 10,000 students again. They had 188 million total expenditures. State, federal, and local.
So you can divide that. You could divide the amount of money spent by the number of students, and they'll give you how much you're spending per pupil.
Exactly. So now can you guess what Hammond was?
If they were one something, Hammond had to be in the twos.
Can you read that number for me?
Is that 448,000? 448 million?
444 million. So I'm going to scroll up here so you can see the columns.
So what is that per student?
So you can see the columns, 21, about 40 grand a student.
So 40 grand a student in Hammond.
So you talked about a two-tier system of education. We have a two-tier system of education. One where we pour money into a dumpster fire and don't educate the students, and one where we do the best job we can with the money that we get. I mean, if you talk about educational attainment in those schools that received 1/3 of the money, where would you rather have your kids?
Well, I mean, my father already made that decision in 1974,
Exactly.
so and then paid for private school. So, I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, if you want to give a little background, which I think I should, I go back all the way to Dr. Watkins at the old station at the school town of Hammond, and he told me that, and I'll get the numbers mixed up a little bit because it's been close to 20 years. He said that in 1984, Hammond had either 24,000 students with 28 buildings, and in 04 they had they were at 14,000 students with the same number of buildings. Okay, so then since then, that was before the rebuilds. Okay, so I'm not saying two things can't be true at the same time, Ken. I'm not saying that they've spent too much money, but at the same time, if you're going to take that money away as quickly as you did, you guys won, by the way. So you're going to see what you said. They're going to, and the state's involved, they're going to get under the number that they have. So it's going to happen. So what you won. And so what's left is this. The taxpayers, the money that you give, and me, by the way, I got two of them here. I'll show you how much you saved me. Thank you.
Let me see it.
Okay, it's right here.
So let's look.
All right, so right here, look, this is Highland, one of my properties in Highland. Upward adjustment due to voter approved projects and charges. What does that say? 0. Here's my Hammond. Here's the property that I have on Howard Street. Okay? It's appraised at $190,000. This cost me upward adjustment. This is, how much is that saying? $2,830? Huh? $2,830?
Yes.
Okay. No, this is the one on summer.
24.
2830.
Yeah, that's an.
So that's added on, and then here's the other one, and then here's the other one on Howard. $771. I saved, Jimmy, and I'm sure you did the same. I have saved, because of the hard work of you, I have saved $3,600 next year.
Could have at least brought donuts.
So I am okay with, but the reality is the following. The number of students that are left that are going to be in the public schools, and the state is involved, are going to do everything that you said. They're going to come in and they're going to cut with the
state
skip.
doesn't do anything.
They're in.
No, the corrective action plan, this is what they are trying to tell you, which is false. The corrective action plan was drafted by the administration. You can watch the school board meeting where they direct the superintendent to present the corrective action plan that he drafted to the DUAB. They give him authority at the meeting to present his corrective action plan.
So what is the new number? You said it was 444. What's the number they're going to come in at?
I have no idea. They're certified. We could look at their certified budget for next year. We won't know until next year what their actual budget's going to be, but they're going to be about $26 million short. But let's make clear, okay, the corrective action plan to close 2 schools was in the works whether the referendum passed or not. The third school was added at the insistence of one trustee, and Lisa Miller makes reference to that in the last meeting, and I'll try to cut that.
Are you in favor of closing schools, or are you in favor of keeping them open?
Schools need to be closed. I'm not in favor of drastic wholesale cutting of schools in 1 year. It would be nice if we could allow these students to go over the years. If we had allowed the current
finish the school that they're in, to finish the school they're in. I got you.
Tell them look after 20.
You're in third grade. Don't bring any new students in. What you're
exactly, so, by the way, we're not closing schools. They made that clear. We're shuttering schools.
Well, that's because of the state law. That's because of the state law. That's semantics because, and this is where I disagree with the Republicans, is that you not only are you forcing to close schools, you tell me another form of government or business that you have to sell an asset of yours to your competitor for $1.
And by the way, you'll be surprised at this. I actually agree with the school's contention in the lawsuit that it's an unconstitutional taking. But having said that,
there is another thing, Ken, and you're an attorney, right? Or you've played one on TV. Here's the thing that a lot of people have said. That law says building, doesn't say land. They're going to take it. They're going to take it and say, "We'll sell you the building for $1, but we own the land." And you're going to pay rent.
Well, let's not get sidetracked on that.
But that's an important part, though.
My point about that is this: the city of Hammond has lobbyists. Okay, the school city. I don't know if they have lobbyists, but they have a state senator's wife on the payroll. Why aren't they having the children march down to the state house and say, "Don't take our schools. This isn't fair"?
I've had Dan Durnell on here, who's a Republican, who is doing the bidding of Hammond and talked to his own party and said, we need to look into this, and I'm not in favor of this. This is undue punishment. So they've at least started the conversation. Look, Ken, you have to be fair. I think you're 100% right. I think $40,000 a student is ridiculous. I think school spending all the way around is ridiculous. I think that having educators be in charge, and I listened to Mitch Daniels yesterday with Chris Steyerwalt. Okay. And Mitch Daniels was able to come in here at this university, and he sent me a card when my daughter went to college and said, your daughter's college is not going to go up. Mitch Daniels was able to keep one of the best universities in the United States without raising any additional money for his 8 to 10 years. So if he could do it, and he came in and said, wait a second, you guys have people that were in education that become principals, and that's like cutting your own gourd. You're not going to do that. I completely agree. You need someone to come in and cut a bunch of this stuff. That being said, you also can't hammer them 10 ways to Sunday, which is happening at the state level.
But we had 7 years. We asked them. We told them in the first referendum. We discussed this with them, right? At the first referendum. Show us a plan. Let's get some educational outcomes. Let's get our fiscal house in order. They had 7 years. What are we supposed to do?
Past that. I'm on your side. You won.
Right. What are we supposed to do?
What do we got to do now? You won.
Look, come back to me now with the plan. I don't want the schools to fail. Come back to me with a plan for fiscal health and educational outcomes, and I will vote yes. I will be your biggest cheerleader. I'll come on this radio every week at my own expense and cheerlead for it.
Hey, guys, AM 1230, WJB. Let's keep going. Let's take a couple phone calls. Ken Davidson is here. Coos and Davidson having an excellent discussion about the schools here in Hammond. If you got something you want to say, please don't back off. Don't do an East Chicago thing where as soon as we start talking about things, no one can call.
Give the number. There's some new people. 219-845-1100.
Where are you on this issue? We are setting the course for Hammond schools and, quite frankly, for Hammond in general right now. What happens in the next year and a half could set the course for a generation. What is that generation going to look like in terms of education? 219-845-1100. Hey, you're on the air.
Good morning, Judd. Good morning, Dave. And good morning, Kenny. Long time no talk.
Good morning.
It's Garriman.
Hey.
I don't want to be a fear monger, and I know the citizens of Hammond still having my mother and my niece and my nephew still living in Hammond. But you don't have to look, and I know that they don't like comparing, Hammond doesn't like comparing themselves to Gary.
We're on the way.
But in this, if you squint your eyes, it's going to be really close. And it's dire when Wjob comes in. Your duly elected school board is rendered impotent. They can't do anything. And the issue when Wjob came in and MGT took over Gary, and believe me, there was a lot of issues in Gary. The millions they wasted on Roosevelt.
They were $117 million in debt. And if you look at whoever was doing the boiler work at Gary Roosevelt, boy, I wish I had that contract.
Well, those, 5 of the school board members were Roosevelt alum, right? So you can never make big monetary decisions based on emotion, and that was just wasted money. It was based on emotion, and you know what? That was one of the last death nails in the coffin of the Gary School Corporation, was all the money they wasted on Roosevelt, right? But when they came in, you're right, it was 117. The overall debt, but they had a $22 million annual debt. Sound familiar?
Deficit.
Right?
Their deficit was 22. Their debt was 117 million.
And it took 5.5 years when MGT came in with massive austerity cuts to get that down to zero, right? But what they did in the interim, they made all those cuts, and they went through 3 emergency managers, and they really ignored academics, right? And at the same time, the Gary School Corporation, the census went from 4,200 to 3,800. And then what do they throw in the middle of that? Of course, right after a reassessment was the school referendum, right? Gary School Corporation right now has so much money with the federal money through COVID, they don't know what to do with. And since it's federal oversight, They can't, Kenny, they can't just waste it. None of that money can go into the general fund. So what they did is completely ignore the academic aspect of it. They put a new Jumbotron at Westside. They put a new artificial turf field at Westside, but they weren't replacing the toilets. And in the girls' bathrooms, they still didn't have doors on the stalls. So, I just want to tell the people of Hammond and just be careful what you wish for.
Well, so here's the answer to that. We are on that path anyway. By the way, the Gary schools were not even paying their withholding tax. They were taking money out of people's paychecks.
I knew teachers that would get their check in the middle of the day and run. There'd be a race to go to the bank because the first people that got there, their checks would be good. Yeah. And I mean, it just is. And then now, after all that money, to see the way that Gary Roosevelt looks like, I mean, Gary is a terrible way to look at things. They had, first of all, almost every single decision that they made in the public schools was poor decision. There was all kinds of graft and corruption
because it was based on emotion.
It was all screwed up. Hey,
but then we hired their CFO. And we still have Elisa Pritchett.
Real quick, we're leaving at 8 o'clock. Jimmy, I'm going to give these tickets away. We have Friday tickets. So you can give away this week. You can give
I don't know if that's.
It looks like the sheriff's department. Is that 8:30 or 8?
8. All right. So let's take one more phone call. We'll give those tickets away. Hey, you're on the air. How are you?
Ken is absolutely right. They had 7 years. They did nothing. Now it's time for the state to come in and make the necessary cuts. End of discussion.
Ken is right. Ken's the one that said that.
He's right. He's right.
Yeah, well, that's happening.
Absolutely right.
It's happening. So we've already seen this in Gary, and now it's going to happen in Hammond. And my only contention is the following. And I just showed you. You saved me $3,600. Thank you. $3,601 to be exact.
We're higher than that.
So thank you. So this coming year, next year, I will have an extra $3,600. Okay. That being said, I've already seen what happened. There's winners in this.
I have a question.
The taxpayer's a winner. Bishop Noel's a winner. St. Casimir's a winner. The Hast is a winner. There's a lot of winners. The people that are going to be the losers are the kids that go to whatever schools are left.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Of the $11 million that the mayor gave to the YMCA, the second YMCA that we're building, $5 million came from property taxes. $5 million was TIF money. Would you rather see that $5 million donated to the schools or to the YMCA?
I don't know if you can do that with different spots of money, but
of course you can.
Listen. If it
could be done, where would you rather see it go?
So,
if it could be done, where would you rather see it?
Knowing that this other one was coming in.
Hey, caller, do you have anything else before I let you go?
No, I disagree with him. I think he's absolutely right. It's time to make those cuts. Educators can't do it. You need business people in there looking these budgets over and telling them what they need to spend their money on. Thank you.
I mean, Mitch Daniels did it. He did it, and he kept. And by the way, for all those people that say that it hurt education. Purdue was and continues to be one of the best places to go to. But here's another thing when you get to college and you're seeing it at the high school level. Purdue, and this is Wes Lukosius told me this, okay? Now, Wes should know the numbers. He said at their height, both universities here at the extensions were up to 15,000 students. He said they're closer to 8,500 now. So, and then you've already seen what's going on at Valpo, okay? So, and then you know that people aren't having as many kids, and kids are going into the trades. Education in general, they already know. You have the census numbers. You know how many kids are going to be in incoming classes, okay? It's not as many. You don't have families that have 10 kids. You don't have families that barely have 5 kids. So you have incoming, your money coming in is going to be drying up, and your expenses are going up. Those should not be happening at the same time.
I agree 100%. But back to my question for both of you. $5 million in property tax money. We can give it to the schools. Now, don't argue with my hypothesis because I think it's possible, okay? We could give it to the schools, or we could give it to the YMCA building a second location. Which would you do?
All right, I will answer that first. First of all, Ken, see the very first comment that Kuz was talking about when he said he calls me up to tell me what's going on and I won't listen. I'll be honest with you. I don't think that I have enough information, nor do I have enough, I guess, probably interest in doing and finding that information to make that
Bike trails.
discussion.
Could we give it to bike trails?
Yeah, well, I will talk about.
He said, "Give it to the bike trail." But so Jimmy, you're talking about.
So I'm just going to say I don't know if I had the numbers. I got my MBA over here. I could look at them and stuff, and they were all in front of me, and and I spent a few hours looking at it. I would feel qualified to answer your question, but I have not done
Consolidation needs to happen. Okay, here's what needs to happen, and this is what I would do right now if I was the Democrats. And you're going to have a new governor. And I'll guarantee you that new governor is not going to be as good as the old one when it comes to money to Northwest Indiana. I'll guarantee you that right now. Number two, if you're going to go down state right now,
unless it's Suzanne Crouch.
We'll find out Tuesday night when I'm doing election night coverage. I would say that you should take that Kernan Shepherd report downstate and make a deal and say, we're going to eliminate the election of all those people. Those are all administrative positions. We should do away with the 3 commissioners. Okay. We should do what the Kernan Shepherd report, and I'll bring it this Friday to discuss it and show the consolidation that is necessary to happen, because what happened in the state, these are all minor problems, but what happened in the state is we cut the revenue, but we didn't cut the bills yet.
219-845-1100.
Right? Do you agree with that, Ken? That when you went to the 1, 2, 3, you cut the revenue.
Dave, you've gone in a different direction.
It's not.
It's very
the same
important.
direction.
Hammond's property tax rate.
I'm up against the clock. I'm going to take a couple phone calls, all right? Just stay where you're at, and I'll give you a final comment there, Ken. Hey, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, great show this morning, guys. This is Robert from Robertsdale. Wow, you guys are making entertainment. This is awesome. But I do want to remind the listeners of who's in charge right now. We did look at the voting history. All the board members for Hammond, Democrat. The superintendent voting history, Democrat. The mayor of Hammond, Democrat. All 6 council members are what? Democrat. I think it's time for the voters to speak out again, just the way we did for the referendum, and voted no. And they need to open their eyes and give Republicans a shot. Democrats are the ones that have caused this mess, and I'll hang up and listen.
Let's take another one. Hey, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Democrats.
Hey, you're on the air. Go ahead. All right. They were listening, and that's it. Ken Davidson is here, very vocal against the referendum, and I asked him to come in and talk about it, and we've gone through some things. I don't know if I have a show or not. Did you see a sheriff?
He's right behind you.
All right, you guys are in today, right? Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so we
got his gun out, too. I'd just pop him one in the back if he doesn't let you in.
Not just the sheriff, it's the SWAT team. We're
SWAT team. Dave's not here. Jimmy goes like this. There's a cop behind me. He goes like
about
this. Dave's not here.
At that show a couple of years ago, I don't know what they're talking about.
Hey, listen.
Is it legal to have weed in your car right now?
Hey, Ken, you care about Hammond. I know that.
I do.
Very, very deeply. And if there's anything I can say about you that you care very much about Hammond, one of the dangers here is that there's a lot of growth here, and you know that. You look around, look at all these cars going by and trucks and everything. The housing has gone up 83% because
But that's more money for the schools too, by the way.
It is, but it's a good place to maybe still invest, even though there's been such escalation. Do you think any of that is threatened by a declining or a school system that is threatened?
I think intuitively you have to say in the long term it will, but if you look at Gary and the impact that their absolutely, utterly failed school system has on that city and that community, it actually has not affected it as much as you would think. I mean, houses in Black Oak are, over $100,000 for the first time in my life.
So that's the Republican side. The Republican side would be this. We're going into low-income areas, and we're giving, would be a commercial for school choice. And Hammond would be a perfect example. The public schools are in a shambles. Their test scores are horrendous, but the property values went up 82%. That would go against every single economic development and realtor person that would tell you. But the reason why is that, and Bishop Knoll is a perfect example, drive down Chicago Avenue, they're going to have their biggest class ever. all the private schools are going to have their biggest incoming classes coming in a long time, and has 555 students, and Highland has 154 of Hammond students. So next year, my prediction is if the schools have room for it, every single private school that can take Hammond students will take those. Highland will take more, and you will have less public schools for the school city of Hammond to deal with.
The declining enrollment is a huge problem, and I see people on Facebook all the time saying, I'm getting my kids out of these schools, they're closing my child's school, I'm not sending him to the new school that they want to send him or her to.
So you're making my point.
But absolutely, yeah, I'm reinforcing your point. But one of the things that I do want to make clear is, Hammond pays with property tax replacement credits, the full scheme of things, about 4.5% for a residential property. We have the highest property tax rate in Lake County, and I think in the state of Indiana. I mean, I can't look at every municipality, but there may be some.
But it still costs you 1% to live in your home.
No, because you're paying through your income tax.
But you're also getting. Are you removing the credit that you're getting on your tax bill from that number?
No.
So you can't add it all without removing some of the
property tax replacement credits. Come from the Lake County option income tax, okay, and from the state.
I know, but it's a little bit more convoluted. It's a little bit more convoluted than.
And actually, people live in Munster are paying for us. Thank you for that.
But I don't live in Munster.
I got to slow you guys down.
But people live
let me slow you guys down.
Are paying
All right.
for Gary and Hammond in East Chicago.
Ken Davidson is here. Ken, thank you for coming in, but go ahead, in about a minute, tell us, why you're here and what you want to see happen.
I want to see a real plan for fiscal and educational attainment through the school corporation. Bring us a plan. Look, the one thing about the referendum, and even people who are my friends are going to be really mad about this, they didn't ask for enough. I mean, they asked for too much on the capital and not enough on the operating. Why would you ask for doubling the capital when you're still $11 million short on the operating? That's your bread and butter. That's your educating the children. Why not ask for $3 or $4 more million on the operating to get yourself back to that fiscal health? They need to stop the tax anticipation warrants. I presented a plan to try to get us to that point. Do you know they borrow money to pay NIPSCO? Why not just call NIPSCO and tell them, and pay 10% up front? So let's say they're paying $1 million a year at NIPSCO. That's $100,000 in interest. Why not just call NIPSCO and say, we'll pay you twice a year? Do you think they're going to shut off the schools? No, they're not going to shut off the schools. The city of Gary did it for years and years. They owed them millions of dollars. But if you paid them twice a year on time, they would be fine with that.
There's a savings. You're talking about being a business guy. And I'm in favor of you. We try to do this all the time in every single thing that we do.
10% juice that they're paying on $1 million bill. That's $100,000 a year.
You're talking to Polak. I don't like paying juice on anything.
Right. You have to reduce those tax anticipation warrants, because if you don't, they're going to continue to increase every year because you're borrowing the interest again next time. We're paying $100,000 $1 million every 6 months.
I'm allergic to interest, Ken. I'm Polish.
$2 million of the $10 million structural deficit goes to bankers and lawyers.
All right. Hey, listen, we got to just kind of scratching this.
Can I do two things?
topic.
I want to give these tickets away.
No, we're
come on. I
gotta
go.
I
know.
I can't. I'm not taking. I got the.
I'll give them away.
Here.
I'll give them away to. So for those people that want these, 4 tickets. They're great seats with a parking pass on Kuziak Construction. Okay, we'll give those away this week. It's this Friday, so you get the if you go, you get the fireworks.
I'll give them away
show.
tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
okay, I'll give them to you. And then also, don't forget tomorrow night. We'll come on at 7:00 for the 18% that came out and voted. We will break it down. Kevin Patrick, myself, and Matt Reardon. So see you tomorrow. And Steve's Catering, thank you. They're bringing. So you're going to want to come by, Jim. Steve's bringing his thing like he always does from Steve's Catering. From Hegwish. We'll give them a bunch of play tomorrow. Thank you. And go on out and vote tomorrow. I don't care if you write no one. Go on out and show your support.
Hey, guys, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Ken Davidson.
Thank you, Ken. I'll have you on my show on Friday.
All right, great.
All right, guys, that'll do it.
Wait, does that mean I can't win the tickets? I'm kidding.